Hello, welcome back to Behind the Faders, the life sound channel. I thought I'd shorten the introduction a little. At the moment, we're covering speech, and in the last video, I was talking about the right approach, the right mindset behind mixing speech and all that. And I said in my last video, next time around, I will talk about all the mixing stuff, the EQ, compression, whatever. But actually, I changed my mind because I thought before we talk about the mixing, we should talk about the microphones that are being used for speech and their pros and cons and so on. So let's get into that, shall we? First up, the cruel truth is there's no perfect mic for speech. They all have their pros and their cons. So let's start with the normal handheld mic, like this. For many engineers, it's their favorite choice, me being one of them for a long time, because you don't have to attach something to somebody. You can just hand it over and you have a lot of gain before feedback. The problem is these mics are great as long as the person using it has the slightest idea how to use it. For example, of course, the gain before feedback comes from the proximity effect of the microphone. And if now somebody holds it way too far away, now this is working against you because all you got is a very thin signal and you have to crank up the gain and you might still run into feedback. Then people might even move the mic around or doing this instead of this. So you got all the plosives. It can turn into a nightmare if the person doesn't know how to handle a microphone. And even have the chance to talk to them, I mean yourself or the guy who's in charge of miking, talk to the people and explain how to use a mic. If they're nervous and new to this, they might forget within seconds. So they might start the right way and then they go this, not even noticing what that does to their voice because they trust that the sound engineer can fix all that. So I sometimes, when I get to talk to people, I try to use terms that will maybe stick with them a little longer so they might remember for a longer period of time. For example, if you hold a mic, think of a beer bottle, not an ice cream cone. Of course, terms like this are not appropriate for any situation. You might work that out yourself. If I imagine like a 25-year-old sound engineer telling this to a 65-year-old CEO, it might not be the best idea. So, summary for handheld mics, perfect as long as the person using it knows what he's doing, at least halfway. Another point when it comes to handheld mics is which is the best mic for this. Many people prefer condenser capsules because they're a bit more sensitive. But the problem is that a lot of these mics have like an extended high end, which sounds helpful in theory, but it isn't really. So my favorite choice is really the good old Shure SM58. But then again, there's so many new mics out there that I've probably never heard about. Let me know, what's your favorite when it comes to handheld speech mics? Next up, headsets. When it comes to headsets, and by the way, I can only talk about DPA headsets because that's the only headset mic I've been using or even seen for decades, for ages. That's the headset of choice for every company I work for, and it's all I see on television. So it's the only thing I can talk about. I don't know any other headsets. So headsets, when it comes to the mixing, they're probably the best choice because they're sitting on people's heads. The people don't have to know anything about using a microphone, so perfect. But the cons are there's just so much to know around it. First of all, you have to put it on people. You have to get into somebody's hairdo and attach this microphone, something I always hated. Fortunately, most of the time, somebody is doing it for me. So then you know how to put it on without annoying people. So you have to practice it a little, knowing about the mechanics. It's a bit fiddly, if that even a word. Also, here's an important soft skill. When you're in charge of putting headsets onto people's heads, Make sure you've got really clean hands, you smell nice, and you don't have bad breath or anything like that. Sounds silly, but it's somewhat important. Then again, yeah, if a woman wears long earrings, she will have to take them out. You have to stay away from beards. Then there's also the choice between cardioid and omnidirectional headsets. So the people that plan the equipment will often go for cardioid, thinking they're just easier to handle because more gain before feedback and a louder signal, uh, which is kind of true. But then again, with a cardioid headset, you have to be really careful about the placement of the capsule. An omnidirectional mic is much more forgiving when it comes to that, and also it sounds so much more open that sometimes the voice is more intelligible even at a lower volume. Most of the time, I would prefer omnidirectional, really. But there's more. Now, if you have a woman with a very tiny neck, then it's really difficult to put it on because you can't get it together close enough. Although there is a way to kind of bend a girly headset, but I forgot how that goes. Or the opposite, you have men with no neck, and now the entire headset is too small, and the capsule ends up somewhere in the back here. So there's all kinds of obstacles when it comes to putting on a headset. Even once you've done that, in a situation where somebody gets mic'd, but then sits in the audience for a while until it is his turn to go up there. In the meantime, he might have touched his face in any way, and without noticing it, now the microphone is somewhere in space. So, meaning, if you have a scenario like that, somebody should be in charge of controlling every speaker right before he goes on, if the microphone is still in a useful position. But once this is all out of the way, now it's easier to handle than any other mic when it comes to just mixing it. Next up, clip mics, which for me is the worst. First of all, the placement. I know usually they are attached to like a jacket, like somewhere here, which is the best compromise between getting some volume and some coverage. Now, if that doesn't work, but you don't know in front, you need to hear that person talk, and you would even need to know how this person behaves on stage to decide about the best placement. Like if I know somebody has a weak voice, I would sometimes attach it to like a knot of the tie pointing upwards. But now, yes, you get more signal, but now you get a lot of this, and no compressor can work against that. So placement is a problem. Then there's also cardioid and omnidirectional, but a cardioid in this situation with a mic down here, and it's so easy to move so it shoots in completely the wrong direction. Cardioid clip mics to me are a bit like Russian roulette. I don't recommend it at all. But now you attached it, and now the person sits down, maybe, and now not only can the mic move with the clothing can touch the mic, or now the tie can touch the mic. So many obstacles. I only use clip mics if I really have to because the client insists and there's no way to talk him out of it. Oh, and there's also another aspect. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. I'm not making this up. If you have like a bigger event sort of thing with a lot of speakers, then you will have one or two techs in charge of handling the mics. So they might have a table somewhere and people come to them and get their mics and they turn them afterwards, unless you have some important CEOs or celebrities that cannot be bothered doing that. These people will be mic'd in their dressing room or something. But that's the usual procedure. There's this miking table. And what can happen with a clip mic is a speaker comes off the stage and immediately gets drawn into a conversation with somebody. All of a sudden realizing he's running out of time, he's got a flight to catch, and off he goes to the airport with the mic still on him. I'm not making this up. This has happened. And of course, then there are people that are in charge to collect the mics, but then maybe in this situation, the guy doesn't want to interrupt the conversation. Uh, but then he has some other stuff to do and plans to come back. And when they look at it again, the person's gone. It has happened. It's just a little thing, but another disadvantage of a clip mic. Um, so for me, they are the worst. If you disagree, let me know. Tell me your experience with it. Um, and lastly, Lectern mics. Sometimes you have a desk with one Lectern mic like this, which can only be problematic if the person talking really doesn't know what to do. Like you might have seen, I've seen award shows where like rock stars got an award and then they treated this lector mic like a handheld and really talked into it like that. And that's, of course, sounds horrible. Like they clip the capsule, plosives all over the place. But if somebody stands in front of it in a normal manner, it's usually okay. Very often you will have a desk with two mics like this, so it covers more area and one can always act as a replacement for the other one, like a spare. Now, the problem with two mics is you can't just bring them up on the same level because then you will have a hell of a phasing unless the speaker is exactly in the center between them and stays there. Any other way, it will phase because now the voice reaches one microphone earlier than the other one. It's logical, right? So, what can you do? Well, nowadays, most of the time, you will have an auto mixer in your desk, and that's problem solved. If not, there's this old method of you take one microphone, 6 dB, at least 6 dB down. And now the phasing is still there in theory, but it's not as audible anymore. In fact, it's almost non-audible. What I sometimes tried for a while was I would pick the mic that sounded better for some reason. I mean, it's the same type of mic, same EQ, and yet one sounded better than the other. I would pick the one that sounded better, and then I would low cut the other one so severely that it only could pick up like meaning if this is my main mic and this is my SS mic, only when somebody turned around all the way to the side, then the main mic wouldn't be able to pick up the sibilant sounds anymore. So then the other mic would come into play, but that did not always work. So it's worth trying, but the thing is, if it doesn't work, all you do is take your low cut and put it down to normal, and you're back in the game. So Lectern mics are reasonably easy to handle, I think. And there's also most common mics to be used, like the DPAs as a headset, are Sennheiser ME36. That's what I see the most. And there's one more aspect to them because they have this grid on the capsule. And this grid is supposed to make the microphone pretty deaf from that side. And there's a whole philosophy about how to adjust these grids. And some people think that it should go downwards, so to minimize reflections from the desk. Other people think they should be facing each other. Other people think they should be facing outwards for whatever reason. I could never really figure it out from theory. What I always do is I ask somebody just to check it out for me. So try downwards, try all four directions, and just listen what sounds best to me. It takes a minute, and then you just, That's Lectern mics, but I want to do a kind of honorable mention, just for your knowledge base so you know these mics exist. Look at this. This is a picture from the German Bundestag from speaker's perspective in the plenary hall. And these strange things on your left and your right are the microphones. And I'm telling you this, you might never get your hands on them. I got to use them once in my entire career. And those are Microtech Fel KEM 970. And they're most interesting because what they do, they work like the opposite of a line array. So they have a couple of capsules in them. So their coverage is really precise, and that's why they can work from so far away from the speaker. So just because now you've heard of them, I don't think you will ever get to use them. And that's pretty much it. If I ever forgot something or you disagree with something or want to tell me something, please, I love comments. So that's it for today. Bye bye.